Prepare yourself, because together, let's uncover and rediscover the hidden practitioner within inside you. You are the power you seek.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Doc Demo. Okay, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about dementia. Now, before I bring on Doriella, she's been so kind as to want to come on and talk about her father. I just want to tell you that, believe it or not, a lot of things happen emotionally before they happen physically. You know, I keep talking about how the invisible creates the physical. Well, just think about this. How many times did you say, I just want to forget? I just want to forget. I just want to forget. Okay? And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. You may not believe this, but we want to forget when we feel that we've let our family down, when we've let ourselves down, when we've let other people down, when we feel like we've really failed, okay? So the bigger the failure, the more you want to forget it. Now, what if you always felt that you were a failure? Then you'd want to forget it all, wouldn't you? Now, the craziest part about this is usually men will have the heart attack, fart attack, and then women will, and men will also have the hearing problems because they're just tired of hearing about their wives talking to them. Honey, please, let's communicate. And then what happens is, okay, women will get the dementia because they just want to forget that this thing ain't working. So the reality is, I'm not trying to make a joke out of this, but start taking a look around. But Doriella's father has dementia. And understand, there's always an emotional issue in the tissue. So with every physical condition, there's an emotional attachment to it. So you never want to just look at the condition and not look at the condition a person is in upstairs. Epigenetics supersedes genetics. You know, they say that there Alzheimer's, there's also a case where there's 3 genes that mutate, okay, and it can be passed down through the family. And I'll tell you honestly, I'm allowed to think what I want, and I don't believe it. And I also believe that you can wean out any genetic problems anywhere, because the reality, we already know that they did what was called the Genome Project. It failed really miserable. And the reality is they didn't tell us that, did they? But they spent millions on it, but they didn't tell us that it failed because they wanted to prove that pretty well everything was genetic. But the reality is everything's not genetic. Hardly anything is genetic today, because we realize that it's epigenetic, and that's the reality. So it's what you think, it's your habits. You'd be surprised how much you are like your parents, how your parents are like your parents, and we pass it down. And you can believe this or not, but even with other illnesses, we'll actually say, well, my mother had this, or my father had this, or I had this. My father had heart disease. I always believed I was going to get it. And then I smoked cigarettes when I was younger, so I thought I was going to get heart disease and lung-tongue cancer, which my mother died of. But then my father died of leukemia. So you know what? I'm going to tell you something right now. In my life, I have understood one thing, and that's this. My thoughts are everything. I create my day. Nobody else creates my day. The news doesn't create my day. My partner doesn't create my children don't create. The environment I'm in, I create my environment, okay, internally and externally. I create it. I hold the loving line. I decide what I'm going to believe in. I decide what I'm going to put my energy into, and I'm not going to put my energy into anything I don't want. So, go on talking about things you don't want. You're going to get things you don't want. Or don't create beliefs for yourself, okay? And then just live life randomly. You'll get some of what you do want and some of what you don't want. And that's not just in the way of your thoughts. That's in the way of your illnesses and health. Sometimes it could go good for you and sometimes it won't. Now, why am I talking about all this? Because we have been programmed that every condition we need to take a look at only on a physical level. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to want Doriella to think about this. She's listening right now. Before her father started getting dementia, did his business crash? Did his mother and father die of cancer and he couldn't handle it? Is he a very sensitive person and he cannot process his emotions? So the best way, if you can't process your emotions, is to leave, partially leave, because the body will actually create things like this to protect you. Hey, listen, okay, I don't want you to die, and I'd rather you have dementia than die. I'd rather you have this than this. That's just like people will get very severe osteoporosis. Okay, they may not like it, but they could have had cancer. The calcium actually tried to buffer down the pH so that there wasn't mutations and issues in the tissues like cancer. So that's why we get calcium deposits in our breast. That's why we get kidney stones. That's why we get gallstones. All of these things are because we're too acidic and we could have gotten cancer. So do you want gallstones, kidney stones, calcium deposits in your joints or your breast or any other tissue in the body, or cancer? So your body is always looking to give you something to keep you alive longer, because that's its job, right? And then your subconscious is only based on the beliefs you have. And if the beliefs you have aren't healthy, you're not going to be healthy. If your beliefs are healthy, you're going to be healthy. That's why 86% of the population has an autoimmune disease. 1 out of every 4 children are obese. That's why 80% of the population is overweight. 60% of the population is obese. That's why 60% of the population will experience cancer in their lifetime, and that 60% of the population will also experience diabetes. That's why 80% of the population is pre-diabetic right now. And guess what? Your beliefs decide what you're going to shop for at the store. Your beliefs decide what you're going to pull out of the cupboard and out of the fridge. If I were to go into everybody's fridge, okay, that's watching this show right now, I'd be totally shocked. There'll be hundreds, maybe thousands of different cancer-causing chemicals and dyes and preservatives and GMOs just running rampant through their cupboard and fridge. So dementia, if you don't want dementia, then you've got to wake up. You've got to wake up. Now, we've got to try to see if we can wake up her father. Wouldn't that be great if we could? Mm-hmm. Well, we can wake up her father if we can bring some excitement into his life, and if we can get rid of what? Okay, it's called amylin. Amylin is a protein that's in the fatty tissue around the nerves. And my belief is, before we bring her on, I want you to get this. Work with me on this, okay? Just work with me. Okay, now, let me tell you something. People like Bruce Lipton, a lot of other scientists out there, and doctors will totally agree with me, because I've got science on my side. And the reality is this. You can take a look at a person's brain, and if you were to actually do an x-ray of the brain, okay, you could actually see inflammation in a brain in a certain part of the brain, or scar tissue. The scar tissue showing that there was so much inflammation for years. That's why there's scar tissue. But where there's inflammation, there's different parts of the brain that signify different parts of the body. That part of the brain that's inflamed, you can actually tell where there's inflammation in that part of the body. Just as somebody can say, I have cancer in this part of my body, you can go to their brain and take a look that there's going to be damage to that part of the brain. So all I want to say is this. Remember what I've been teaching you over the last few years? Okay, let's go through it really quick. And when we bring her on, this is just to help her to start thinking a little bit. Okay, so we know this. With dementia, your brain is shrinking. Why is it shrinking? Come on. Okay, I want you to think about that. Okay, I want you to think about why it's shrinking. Okay, so now, with dementia, we know that the brain was on fire a lot. Ooh, yes, we do. Okay, so here it is. We view our life in images. We create everything out of images in our life. You know, our life is like a movie. So it's continual images, and those images create thoughts. Those thoughts create emotions. Those emotions create frequencies. Those frequencies, depending on if they're negative, will cause, if they were negative, there'll be adrenaline, cortisol, and histamine coming into the body. Now, if they were positive, we would have dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, which means dose. Now, here's the deal. Don't believe me, but guess what? They've done tons of studies. Go look at them. Go find them. Go research them. Do your research. Every time that you have a negative emotion, the longer you have it, the stronger you have it, the more on fire your brain is. That's right. So let's put it this way. What if you had more fearful beliefs than courageous ones? What if you had more beliefs of you being a failure than a success? What if you had more beliefs that were more negative than positive? So that means that your brain would heat up a lot, right? Now, what if you never stopped having them? What if you continually did that? And understand, fearful people forget to drink water, don't they? Most people, and even if they're not fearful, don't drink enough water. Today, due to all the Wi-Fi, the blue light, and all the other EMF toxicity, you know what? If a woman drinks less than 3 quarts of water a day, oh my God, you're in trouble. A man, 1 gallon. And you know what? And make it as hot water as possible throughout the day so you can melt all that stuff and get it out, because hot water cleans better than cold water. Now, the reality is this. You can believe it or not believe it. It doesn't really matter. Your foot doesn't shrink. Your leg doesn't shrink. People actually don't even shrink their height. Do you know what shrinks? I want to prove something. I'm proving something here, and this is this. Guess what? You know what? I'm 65 years old. I lost 1.5 inches. Boy, that's a lot of calcium loss, eh? Are you like out of your skull? You must be. Well, you just lost half your skull, because the reality is your skull did not shrink. And you can lose all the calcium you want, but you don't lose height. You lost height because the discs in between your vertebrae got dehydrated, and you still have the same amount of tissue. But when you make beef jerky, you can take 1 inch of tissue from an animal and bring it down to 1/8 of an inch. And that's what beef jerky is made from, but it's still got all the same fibers. And that's what's happening with the discs between the vertebrae, which you can totally reverse. We can do an hour and a half. I wish I could do it on your brain, but I can't. But I can do it on your spine. We can actually restore your total height. You heard what I said, and I mean it. So the reality is that's not what I'm getting at. I'm getting at this, that we're beef jerky, and the brain becomes beef jerky because it didn't get the proper nutrition, didn't get the proper hydration. Now, believe it or not, what's the first thing that gets dehydrated in the human body before your mouth? Your brain. So when you already feel dry in your mouth, you've already dried out your brain. So you've taken that grape and made it into a raisin. And that's all you're doing. And you know what? Nobody's going to talk about that. There's no money in it, is there? So guess what? You don't want dementia. The first thing you're going to do is hydrate every day. And you're going to use structured water. Okay? This isn't a sales pitch here. But the reality is you can use water running down from a mountain or rainwater. That's structured. But if you don't have if this is a structure unit, you put everything through it. It gets rid of the surface tension. It has less surface tension than all water. So the reality is, whether you want to do that or not, you better drink water. Okay? You better drink water. And you better drink a lot of it. And if it's warm, it's going to open things up. So let's get that perfectly clear. And we know that dementia patients, Alzheimer's patients, their brain is shrank even down to 1/3 of its size. We also know, like I just said, that toxic thoughts create a toxic brain. Because guess what? Anything that causes you stress is going to inflame your brain. So guess what? Right now, with all of the stuff that's going on out there in society, how many people are working towards Alzheimer's? Oh, yeah. But guess what? They're not just frying their brain out. They're saying, I want to forget about this. Watch out. Watch out what you say, because watch out what you get. Okay. So you need to get that. And you know what? It's okay. You know what? People will look at me as a natural health doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. So, I'm kind of just half stupid. The reality is this. I'm really logical and I'm really quite smart. And the reality is this. Everybody will be smart when they have smart beliefs. And the first thing is if we could actually get her father to embrace nature completely, if we could get her father and mother to embrace the music they listened to when they first met, if we could get the sunshine into his life as much as possible and play music in the house all the time, and talk about things that he used to talk about that made his eyes sparkle. That's the first thing. But no, we don't do that. You know what? Dad's losing his mind. We all get depressed. So what does that do? That depresses Dad. If we all got happy and we all smiled around him, we all danced with him, we encouraged him to remember. What's he trying to forget? What are you trying to forget? What are you trying to run away from? And understand something. You don't need to run away from you because you're beautiful. And if you think that there's something disgusting about you or evil, then guess what? You've been programmed to hate yourself. And understand something, everybody. You can get it or don't get it. But there's only love and hate. They're the only two emotions. Everything else falls underneath love and hate. So what falls under hate? Love. Everything that feels beautiful. What falls under hate? Everything that we would do to destroy ourselves, whether we're eating, thinking, or drinking toxicity. So look at, from the minute we get up till we go to bed, if we came together as a family, and our job was to bring happiness back into the life, and you can understand something. The only reason you get dementia is you got too many physical blocks in your brain. And understand this, whether you want to believe it or not, your brain is calcifying and it's dehydrating. And like I said, the amylin, okay, that is a protein in the fatty tissue around the nerves, has been fried, okay, from the inflammation. And now that created the plaque. And plaque doesn't allow the transmission, the electrical transmission in the brain. So we've got to get rid of the displaced calcium back into the skull where it came from, because the calcium was used to buffer down the inflammation in the brain. Because also, I guarantee you that if we were to talk to the mother, we'd find out that the father's diet wasn't that great and he forgot to drink water. And then we'll find out what kind of job he had. Then we'll find out what kind of trauma and drama was in his life. And then I'll tell you something. If the mother and the father were to embrace a whole plant-based diet, if they were to embrace advanced water fasting and done properly, if they were to do making sure they get the cork out of their butt so that their bowels are starting to move properly, gut-brain connection. Okay, if they were to go in and clean the filter, which is the liver, which guess what? I guarantee you none of them have done coffee enemas or the ultimate coffee enema. And guess what? After you've done about 30 of them, your liver is new again. Isn't that something? Right. Don't change the filter in the liver. Get the cork out of the butt and just back up the waist. Okay? Understand something. And then take a look at the water he's drinking. Take a look at the food he's eating. I mean, he needs cooked food. You know, the more you cook, the worse you look. The more you fry, the sooner you leave your body. So the reality is that if we don't give this gentleman high vibrational foods, then how do we ever bring the spark back to him? Because he's lost his spark. But did he lose his spark on an emotional level or a physical level first? That would be the question, but I would say it's an emotional level if anybody really wanted to look at that. But, you know, families don't stop to look at these things. They're so wrapped up in the fear of it, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Nobody knows what to do with their bodies because you've all been programmed to destroy yourself. Me too. Me too. Remember something. Okay, I smoked like a fiend when I was younger, when I was a teenager, and even into my 20s. Even when I had a clinic in Toronto, I'd run around in the back alley, smoke 3 cigarettes, chew some dentine gum, come back in, and then tell people how to live their lives. What a hypocrite, eh? The reality is I had beliefs I couldn't shake, okay? Because I had a belief that I was unworthy of calling myself a practitioner, a doctor, whatever, and I was a fraud. You know, I was made to feel like I was a fraud my whole life. So the reality is I wanted to forget that too. So if I would have kept that up, maybe I'd have dementia today. So unless you're going to love, honor, embrace yourself, and forgive yourself unconditionally, because you don't want to forget your past. You want to learn from your past to create a strong present and a beautiful future. Doriella, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you, Dr. Wolfe.
What do you
Thanks for
think?
having me here.
What do you think?
Yes. Well, I never stopped to think about that, actually, about the emotional side of things that could have an effect with his dementia.
Well, it's the biggest part of his dementia, and I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I didn't never came to my thought. But I mean, he didn't. Not to my knowledge, there wasn't really death in the family just before he had dementia, or no
No.
loss of business or anything. But
It couldn't have just happened. This, you remember what dementia is, right?
build
It's
up,
a very
build up,
slow
yeah.
progress. You've
Slow
got to
progress.
actually pull calcium from your skull, calcifying your brain. Okay. You're dehydrating your brain, making it into a raisin. Okay. You're taking the amylin that I said that's in the fatty tissue, and you're frying it and making it into plaque, right? You're doing all these things. And then, they talk about how it could be a fungal problem. Well, it is. Anything that's deteriorating is going to have fungus in it. Anything that is deteriorating can have parasites in it or even bad bacteria, right? Or a virus. So the environment and the tissue decides exactly what's going to live there and exactly what's going to go on. So what was it? Okay, how old's your father?
He's 75 years old right now.
Okay. How tall is he?
But he's approximately 165 centimeters, around that.
Oh, okay. What is it in inches and feet, please?
Inches, I don't know.
Can you check that for me, Sean?
What'd she say? 165?
165 centimeters?
So
Yes.
30 centimeters in
No. If you can
We
just
use a different system.
even just get my phone and then I can just ask Siri, right?
no problem.
Okay, all right. He'll get that. So how much does he weigh?
He weighs around his age, so 75, 76 kilograms.
5'5".
So he weighs about 180 pounds.
hmm
5'5" inches.
He's a lean man, but he's got
He's
a bit
5'5".
of belly.
Is he only 5'5"?
Yeah, he's short. He's only short.
Yeah, but 180 pounds. He's overweight.
Yeah, there you go.
What?
Yeah.
So there you go. Okay, so you need to get this, everyone. Okay, if you're not a lean, keen, healthy machine, you're not that. Okay, so the reality is you said he was 5'5", right? 180 pounds, right?
Mm.
Your father could drop 20 pounds easy, 25 pounds.
Mm.
So do you know what that 25 pounds is, Doriella? That's inflammation. So
Yeah.
People aren't overweight, they're overwaste. They have too much waste in them, and that's why the body makes fat cells. The body makes fat cells because if it doesn't store the inflammation toxins, then what will happen is the person will have mutations, autoimmune diseases. It's trying to slow down their demise. So understand that. The bigger you are, and understand, please do nobody take this wrong, okay? This is actually an actual fact. The bigger you are, the more your brain shrinks.
Wow.
So the more overweight you are, the more your brain shrinks. Can anybody out there tell me why that is? That the more overweight you are, the more overwaste you are, okay, the more your brain shrinks. Well, because the waste isn't the fat cells are not weight. It is a storage shed for toxins and inflammation. So the reality is, what's going to happen anywhere else in the body is going to happen in the brain, and it happens there first. Now, what if this person who's overweight isn't drinking enough water? How much water would you say your dad's drinking?
I don't think he would have drunk too much, because I only remember him drinking water really at meals, not through the day at all.
And you should never drink water at meals. You should be drinking. See, anybody that has to drink water at meals, that means they're so dehydrated that when they chew their food, it's so dry in there that the food can't go down. So it's like you got to put water in the river to get the logs down. Do you understand?
Right.
To move them along. So, you know what? Medical science, okay, is never going to talk about this. They're never going to talk about the basics, because guess what? Then they ruin their whole business. The reality is you got to understand something. Dementia is getting worse, and it's going to get worse with 5G, even more worse. Okay, so, okay, right now, does your mom and dad live together?
At the moment, my dad's in respite care at a nursing home. because my mum got sick and she wasn't well enough to look after him. But he'll be back soon, back home with her soon.
Okay, so here's here's the situation, and you're not going to want to hear this. Somebody needs to go and be there for 6 to 9 months to make sure that your father does the perfect day, and that takes everything he needs to do to reverse this. You know, that's the sad part of it, because your mother's not going to be able to do it. How old is she?
She is almost at her 70s, maybe 65.
Okay, well, does she have lots of energy, and she would look at this as an adventure and I can do this? Or is she also not have a lot of energy, and would she want to take this on? Because we got to look at the physical and the emotional side. Sometimes people emotionally just say, I've had enough.
Yes, I think she's at that point, really. She's not physically well herself. She suffers from fibromyalgia.
Well, okay,
migraine,
1 second.
all of these things.
Let's talk about her, but there's no such thing as fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia
that's
just
right.
means pain in your muscle tissue, which means inflammation.
That's right.
And toxicity, which means that our bowels have been backing up. So the reality is people can get it or not get it. Oh, is there anybody out there? 1 second, Doriella. Is there anybody out there that would like to challenge me that on the fact that I believe that 95 to 98% of all inflammatory problems, all disease comes from a dysfunctional large intestine? I would just love someone who wants to come on and just set me straight, because that's what I believe, and I'll hold the line on that. So your mother has fibromyalgia, which means fiber muscle pain. That's what it is when you translate it. Isn't it nice how they always talk Greek? We could never figure that out, could we? Oh my God, did you hear Mom's been diagnosed with fibromyalgia? Oh my God, no, really? What are we going to do? I don't know. Maybe we could give her the right kind of water and get her on a whole plant-based diet, get the cork out, and maybe just see if she could do some coffee enemas, and we'll turn that around like lickety-split. Okay, what else does she have?
She's just really high anxiety all the time. She's stressed all the time. I tell her, calm down, just relax a bit.
Okay, so
she's always like that. She's like on adrenaline all the time.
Okay. Well, she's
got other things too, diabetes, type 2.
Okay, you got to slow down. Once you say something, you can't keep going with a whole bunch of things, because I want people to understand something. Yeah. So your mother has anxiety all the time. Well, just guess what? Your mother runs an anxiety program. See? So understand something. Her brain is actually looking for something that will feed the program. Do you get that? Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you just said it's her main program. So if your main program was an anxiety program, then that would mean it's your strongest program, and that's the program you run the most, right? So the one you run the most and is the strongest is the one you're going to do, the prominent, dominant one, right? Then you said also that my mother has onset diabetes, so type 2 diabetes. So type 2 diabetes means lots of flour, lots of sugar, and dairy. That's it. It's an inflammatory problem. You can reverse type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes means you're whipping the pancreas and you're dumping insulin all the time, and it's exhausted. So back off with the sugar and the flour and the processed carbs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what else did you say about your mother?
Osteoporosis?
Well, osteoporosis is just, okay, so let's put it this way. Whether anyone wants to believe this or not, I've got the bone structure of a 25-year-old person, right? So the reality is we know how we can put the calcium back into our bones. Osteoporosis is caused because your body makes and breaks bone. After the age of 40, it breaks bone but doesn't make it very well. The human growth hormone goes down. Your body can't extract the calcium ion out of the calcium physical. So the physical is getting displaced, and it doesn't get back put in your bones. So then you start getting the gallstones, the kidney stones. You start getting as stiff as a board, but your bones start becoming like Swiss cheese. And the more anxiety you have, the more inflammation you have, which means the more inflammation you have, the more that you create an acidity in your blood, which means that your body has to dump tons of calcium into the blood and into the tissues in that area, because it has to stop it because it doesn't want you to get cancer. And guess what? That's when you get plaque in your arteries, that's actually displaced calcium and cholesterol. We always make cholesterol, but we make too much cholesterol when we're on fire, and we get too much calcium pulled from the bones when we're on fire. Now, believe it or not, this is the exact same thing that happened to your father. So because your mother's brain is healthier, she's not there yet. And understand something. If we could go back in time, and you may not even know it, and if we could talk to your mother, she might tell you that there was a few things in your father's life that he wanted to forget. And then, did your parents eat right? Or did they eat like, the way we're talking about, right? Was your dad on medication? Yeah. Okay, so let's go back. He's 75. When did did the family notice he was getting dementia?
In around 2014, early 2014, I started saying to my mum, there's something there.
69 years old, around 69.
Yeah, 69 years old, and by July I was pushing it, Mum, get him to see someone, and they diagnosed him in July with dementia, Alzheimer's.
Okay. So I'm going to try to explain something right now to everybody, okay? And this is really important, okay? So, here's the deal. For every inch, your waistline is bigger than it's supposed to be for a healthy waistline, the sicker you are. So, your dad has a big tummy. So we know that your dad is a sugar flour junkie. Okay? Did he also drink alcohol?
No, he wasn't a drinker.
Okay, but he was a sugar flour junkie, right?
Yeah, a lot of black beans, red beans, the South American diet.
Well, there's nothing wrong with beans. There's nothing wrong with beans.
Yeah.
It's the flour products that come with it.
Flour.
Huh?
Yeah, so I think the arepas, they made out of flour.
That's right.
A lot of corn flour. My mum used corn flour, not a normal flour.
Okay.
Yeah.
One second.
I think there was
One
a lot
second.
of that
So let's back it up. Can we back it up? So now let's talk about flour. Flour is a powder. It goes into you, and it's so close to being the same as sugar to the human body.
Yeah.
Now, the corn flour was GMO, I guarantee it. There's hardly any corn flour that's not GMO. So what does corn flour do to the gut and the brain?
Oh.
If it's GMO. It slices and dices up your intestines very small microscopically to make it leaky gut. And then guess what? It gets into your bloodstream, and you know what it does to your brain? Do you know what GMO does to your brain? It causes leaky brain. That means that things will cross the blood-brain barrier, and that's GMO.
The lights are flickering, so just mention we might get cut off.
Okay, we might get cut off. Are we still on?
Yeah, we're live now.
We're still live. So if we get cut off, everybody, because we've lost power last night, we lost power for a few hours today. So, okay. So we might lose electricity too. All right. Okay. So anyways, where was I? What was I talking about? Flour. Oh yeah, flour. Whole grains are great, but let me tell you something. Wheat is not. So when you take wheat in, your body takes. You know what it does? It thinks that wheat, and I'm talking about all wheat now, they think that wheat is a bug. So that's why people have gluten intolerance. So the body goes to attack the wheat. And wherever the wheat goes in the body, it's attacking the tissues. And that's bad. That's why we want to stay away from wheat. That was just a little tidbit for everyone. But understand this. You've got to get away from flour, everybody. And even if it's ancient grains and you make your own bread and you put love into it, let me tell you something. The best thing you can do is give up bread, but don't give up grains. Give up cookies, give up muffins. Oh, I make healthy muffins. Oh, I'm sure you do. Okay? The less flour products you do, the better. And I'm going to tell you something. You can believe this or not. If your dad would have drank the water, if your dad wouldn't have done so many flour products and so much sugar, right? But here's the reality. You already told me that he's got a big gut, right? Okay, so understand that big gut. Does it hang down over the belt or does it stick straight out?
Sticking straight out.
Okay, so guess what? See, that's the difference, right? So if it's hanging down over, we call that elephant trunk. And the thing is that means that the intestines are falling out. So his intestines, we know that they're lethargic and they're laying in the bottom of his pelvis and they're like this. No tone. Okay, they're flimsy, flabby. Now, but here's the deal. When the gut sticks out like somebody is 6 months, 9 months pregnant and they're not a female, that means that the bacteria, that means almost all of his bacteria, up to maybe 90%, 95% is all turned bad bacteria, which is giving off what we call endotoxin. And endotoxin is very toxic. And we already know that he's got leaky gut, like a screen door in his large intestine, same as a submarine. So that goes into his system, which goes to his brain. But understand this. I want you to get this. Okay. There's the pelvis. Excuse me. I need to take a drink. I talk too much. Okay, here's the pelvis. I call that soup bowl. And what happens is, then you have here, take a look at this. This is the bottom of the spine. This is called the coccyx. And guess what? Does anybody understand something? This here is called the sacrum. This here. Now take a look. The sacrum, which is right here, okay? Take a look in here. Is right here. Oh, and guess what it's called? Are you ready for this? This will blow your mind. It used to be called in Egypt the sacred bone of energy. Okay? Now do you know why? Because from your abdomen and your good bacteria, all this energy and information is collected and it goes into the tip of the coccyx and into the sacrum. That's picked up, and then it goes into the spinal fluid of the spine, and it's like this. The spinal fluid carries more light and more information than any other fluid in the human body. Boom. Now what happens is the spinal fluid goes up to the brain, comes back down, up to the brain, comes back down. It's a continual rotation of taking information up and information down. Now, with the damage that's happened in your father, what kind of information is it getting from the brain? For the bloating, which means that all these bacteria are farting, and they're farting really toxic gas. So all that gas, and do you think that bacteria, okay, first of all, okay, we know that the bacteria in our large intestine is 85% of our immune system, and that is fact. We also know that if they go bad bacteria, they give off bad moods, they give off bad frequencies. If those bad moods, those frequencies get picked up as energy information, it's going to mess up his brain. Did you ever hear about gut-brain connection? Gut-brain disconnection? Your dad has gut-brain disconnection. So even to get his memory back, we would have to detoxify his colon, and his colon's been backing up on his liver, so he doesn't purify his blood anymore. We know that the bacteria are farting all the time because that's why he's got this belly. It looks like a beach ball, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That beach ball is full of gas. Your dad's all gassed up. That gas is not just in his belly, it's in his blood. It's being fed to his brain. Okay.
Wow.
Try to remember the last time that you were really severely constipated. You couldn't think straight. You were fuzzy-headed. You know what? When people get constipated, they feel low energy. They feel low vibe. They can't focus properly. How do you feel after you have a really good bowel movement? You go, whoa, I'm awake now. I feel good. I don't know why. I don't just feel good down here. I feel good up here. So the reality is if we were to turn your father around, Doriella, and I need to tell you this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the best gift your father probably gave to you, honey, wake up. Don't do what I did. Do better.
Yeah.
Because the reality is if we can't get somebody to stay with your father for 6 to 9 months and dedicate that part to him. Help him with the coffee enemas, help him with his diet, eating right, putting the music on, getting him to do pelvic exercises, getting to do belly button therapy, and then putting like CBD and THC in his belly button. Because these are really important. Let me tell you, if you had your dad doing belly button therapy, this is a belly button therapy kit. And if he does that, he'll release 70% of his serotonin, 50% of his dopamines and endorphins and oxytocin, which is the more that we get him into a beautiful state of love and happiness and joy, the more that he's going to unfry his brain. Right? Right? I mean, how do you think, Doriella, when you're not in a good mood? How do you think when you are so toxic and you felt like you ate something and you feel really sick to your stomach? Well, your dad feels sick to his stomach all the time.
Mm.
Your dad, you
Right.
can't be rotting out in your abdomen without rotting out in your brain. And I apologize, everyone. I'm not trying to be rude or crude. Is this
No, no.
okay that I talk like this, Doriella?
No, that's fine. Please.
All right.
Go ahead.
So this
The
is
truth.
this is the soup bowl. It fills up, it spreads out, and that's just like anybody who gets hip surgery and has to get a new hip put in. Not a new hip, but a foreign hip, a titanium hip, a steel hip. You get it put in because the inflammation spreads out and eats your hip away. But the reality is it doesn't. Most people that get hip replacement, look, let's put it this way. I don't believe that medicine has anything to offer except if you're in an emergency. And I think that if you're not going to embrace nature, and if you're not going to find your happiness and create a perfect day on an emotional and physical level, nutritional level, then you're never going to get back to where you need to be. And you see, you got to understand something. We're nature deprived. And this is what's going on right now. This is what all the elitists want. The government does it because the government doesn't really control anything. They're controlled by an inner government. And that's why they keep on trying to separate us from nature. That's why they want to get everybody into the cities. That's why they'll say yes to everything that has nothing to do with natural or nature. And the more we separate ourselves from this, the more we're going to lose our mind. The more we're going to lose our health, the more we're going to lose our joy. Yeah. And you'll take a look at most people. They lost their joy before they lost their mind, sweetheart.
Mm. Yeah, it could have been that my dad was going through something for years. I don't know, but my mum probably would know.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you can decide whether or not you want to ask her, or maybe you don't want to open up that can of worms because she's already anxious. But maybe talking about it might make her feel better. Because,
Might relieve it, yeah.
well, here's the deal. Your mother probably feels responsible. I wasn't a good woman because, don't get me wrong, but women are programmed, men are programmed. I didn't feed them right. I didn't love them right. And this is what happened. And if I would have been a better mother, if I would have been a better wife, if I would have been a better lover, if I would have been there more for him, this would have never happened. And you know what? It's not her fault. Does she
No.
know that? Does she know that?
I told her that.
Good. But it's the God's truth. It's getting her to believe it, okay? Because we already know she
Yeah.
runs an anxiety program, right?
That's right.
So I would tell you the things, if somebody came to me, the things I would do is get them to look at the 4 pillars, especially the perfect day diet. And then if we could get some control and actually start doing some, like intermittent fasting, and then eventually move into like an advanced water fast. But I would definitely put him on SAC calcium right away. The Merigen, not SAC calcium, but the ionic calcium therapy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Merigen.
Right. Not Alzigen.
No, Merigen's a little stronger than Alzigen.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Here's the Merigen right here. That's the Merigen. I would put him on the Merigen. I would also be putting him on Pineal, which is a Life Crystal product. There's other things. I won't tell you all those things. If you want to call me, okay, if you want to give me a call tomorrow at the same time that we did the show, I'll tell you the things that I would put him on and do with him. It just so you know, not that you're going to do it, but just so you know.
Sure.
But understand, if he stays in this home, he's got 5G. And we already know that 5G is not good for dementia or Alzheimer's. We already know that they use tap water or just a cheap filtered water, and they hardly ever will give him water unless he asks for something. They're not going to give him water. That'd be the day that they want to give your father a gallon of water so that they have to take him to the bathroom all the time. So that's not happening.
Right.
And then you have to understand, in these homes they have a budget. There's a budget unless it's an exceptional one. $3.50 to $7 a meal, right? So they have a budget. So the meals are not great. You're not going to find like a high vibrational meal. This is not to make you
No.
feel guilty about anything. So you need to get that. You need to
Right.
take all this
Right.
information and do what you think you can do logically. And then you need to be logically and love yourself well with the information I've given you today. Because the reality is that you can decide how healthy you want to be.
Mm. That's true. I'm going to try and encourage my mum to, be able to give him that better diet and, do all these things to help him on his health journey.
Okay, do you have
recovery.
like does he have a grandchild, or does he have a son or a daughter that would be able to do and take 6 to 9 months and do this?
I wish that could have been me, but no grandchildren old enough, and all of my my siblings and I we work, and we have work commitments. But I mean, I could sort something out. Maybe speak to my brother and see something.
Teamwork makes the
something
dream
there.
work. Teamwork makes the dream work. Having a family meeting
Yeah,
and letting everybody know that
Yeah.
they're not going to have to, we're not asking you to take on the brunt. We're coming together as a team
yeah,
to figure this
Yeah.
out. And I will tell you
Right.
that you're going to see a difference in them. I'm going to tell you, I can tell
Yeah.
you that we've done this hundreds of times with people.
I'm
And we're
excited.
talking dementia here. We're not talking Alzheimer's. So the reality
Right.
is I know that these products work. And I know that if we could create an easy
Fantastic.
system for your mother, that'd be great. But the reality, I don't
Mm.
know how logical this is. Every family's different. There's different
Right.
scenarios that have to be talked about and everything like that. But the
Yeah,
reality
of
is
course.
that this doesn't have to happen. And understand something. I want to tell you something. Here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh my God, all the greatest people in the world have tried to get together and we can't figure out nothing. The doctors can't figure out anything. The pharmacists don't know anything. The scientists don't know anything. Guess what? They're not allowed to know anything. And if they know it, they can't tell it. They can't tell it because we're being sold off one piece at a time, sweetheart. And that's it. And look at and I tell this a lot, so I don't mean to repeat myself, everyone. But both of my parents passed away before they were 55 years old. I'll be 65. Does it look like I'm still kicking butt? If you want, I don't care what condition you're in. It's like this, You take a look at Grandpa. He's 65, 75, 80, whatever. And he's like this, walking. And you're going, Grandpa, are you okay? You look like you're in pain. Oh, he doesn't feel a thing. Well, guess what? He doesn't feel a thing because his body numbed him out. Between the calcium, the plaque, the scar tissue, the crystallization, it had to numb him out because if he kept in pain, he would have died. So the reality is your body will calcify things, create plaque so that you don't have to remember or that you don't have any pain anymore. Ah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but guess what? People get this because it's logical. You can tell people, oh, this mumble jumble science and medical stuff, and then people go, I don't know what did he just say? Understand something. If you don't know what he just said, it's because it doesn't make any damn sense. I can say something once and people go, well, that's logical. But the reality is I've got to repeat it 10,000 times because unless it becomes a prominent, dominant belief in their mind, they're never going to do what I do. They won't think about it anymore. And then they'll just be like this. So, it's like Pavlov's dog. Ring the bell, go get your bone. So the reality is whatever you've been told the most, whether it's BS, a dysfunctional belief system, you're just going to go off and do it. Think about it, Dorielle. How many times do you do things that is not good for you and you're going to have to pay for it, but you do it anyway?
Oh, so many times. It's not good.
Yeah, I know, but guess what? Me too. But you know what? I'm getting real close to never doing it. Real close. And the reality is, believe it or not, I found the key. And it's called self-love and self-care. You got to be willing to self-love yourself and self-care yourself before anyone else or anything else. That doesn't mean you forgot your daughter or your children or the other people you love. It's just that you've never paid any attention to here because everybody told you were going to be cared for and you were going to be loved by everyone else. How's that working? Okay.
Right.
What would you like to talk about?
I'd like to ask about, the water that you drink, the structured water.
Yeah.
Is structured water the same as like what you get from a reverse osmosis filter, or not
Okay.
really?
Let me ask you a question. I want you to search the world over and try to find in nature reverse osmosis or distilled water, because they're like cousins. Okay, so where can you find reverse osmosis or distilled water in nature?
Not true.
You can't.
You can't, right?
No, and it's very hard to digest. If you drink distilled water, reverse osmosis, bottled water, it takes as much energy to drink the amount of water that you need if you walk 10 miles.
Right.
Okay, so the reality is water's a food. So when I tell people they need to drink structured water, that doesn't mean they can't drink bottled water, but I wouldn't drink anything from a plastic bottle. Not smart. Understand something. Most of the cancers, most of the, even dementia, and most of all the inflammation, and it's all from xenoestrogens, which is from plastic. Everything comes in bloody plastic, bread in plastic. Well, let's go home and put our food, our leftovers in plastic. No, we got to move to glass, or we got to move to bags, paper bags, not plastic bags. Get away from it. Look at, whether you want to believe this or not, if we were an intelligent society that loved each other, we'd never make plastic things, would we? We wouldn't do that. We'd make plastic things that things aren't going to be putting our nutrients in, our water in, our food in, and anything else that we're going to put into our body or on our body. So you have to understand, there's a whole race on this planet that they've got nothing to do with us. I don't know what they are, but they're not human. Even a human being might attack someone. They might even kill someone, but they're not going to just go out and know that they're poisoning people their whole damn life, which these people are doing to us. It's like this. All the greatest minds in the world have come together, and they can't figure out how to get the toxins out of the water, how to get the toxins out of the air, how to get the toxins out of the food, how to feed people. Meanwhile, we throw 50% of our food in the garbage every day, but we got people starving every day. We got children dying because of dehydration. So the reality is guess what? There's just an evil force on this planet. And the sooner that you understand that you can only trust nature, you can't trust me either. You can't trust me. I can be programmed. For God's sakes. So if it doesn't sound logical, and if it doesn't sound like it's dipped in unconditional total love, then you don't want to trust me either. Do not trust human beings because they can be programmed. But trust human beings that program themselves. Okay? There's a difference. Okay? Which is not, there's not a lot of them, but what the heck, eh?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So we've been giving him at least better water, not from the tap, and my mum's been giving him ginkgo biloba for the past 3 years at least.
Yeah, and guess what? It's good, but it's not going to cut it. Like the calcium ion therapy, if he was doing the calcium ion therapy 4 times a day, you would notice a difference in your father in what? I'd say, without exaggerating, 6 weeks, 3 months. Whoa, did you see what Dad just did? Did you see what he's talking about? Did you see what he's doing? Don't believe me, go into my library. Go to docofdetox.com. Click on the library. Go into the Ionic Calcium Therapy Guide and go watch the video on Alzheimer's.
Right.
Okay?
I will.
There it is. The proof is in the pudding. The science is there.
Incredible.
Okay? And then guess what? Like I said, we can talk about the different things. Like if it was my father, I'd have him clapping. I'd have him clapping his neck and his head. And I'd have him clapping, I would have him doing belly button therapy. I would have him, we'd have a whole day where Dad is either doing something, taking massive action, or having a nap. His whole day should be spent. And also, I'm going to tell you something, not that you can afford it, but Avacen, Avacen, increases the microcirculation in the human body and brain.
Mm.
more than any other device on this planet. It'll actually
Wow.
it'll actually increase it by 66%, which is 100% more than any other device or energy medicine equipment, and that's a fact. And all he's got to do is put his hand in, and then guess what? He'll probably fall asleep. So that's when he has his nap.
Mm.
And also, if your father or if your mother were to do this, have the Avicen, if she used the Avicen, oh, here comes the Avicen. I'm just showing it to you, people. It's not like you got to buy it or do it. You just put your hand into it, right? Okay. And also, just for everybody's just a little tidbit, just this study just came out the other day. Boeing and Arizona University did a major study, and what they did was Boeing, they brought up the heat in the cabins for the pilots to 104, and they discovered that they could actually kill COVID. And what does this do? It brings up the heat in the body to 108. So I'll let you figure out what the next sentence I would say. I'll just let you figure it out yourself. So circulation is everything. And understand your father's microcirculation in his body's gone. Not gone, but it's very absent. And 74% of the circulation in our body is microcirculation. It's not 24%, 26% is the veins and arteries. That's fine. We want our veins and arteries to be clear, but when our veins and arteries get into trouble, our microcirculation's in big trouble already. So that's okay. So the major highways would be called the veins and the arteries, right? And the main lymph nodes, but the small little lymph vessels and the arterioles and the venules, they make up 74% of your circulation. And that would be like you trying to get home, all the side streets. But understand, we've got to open all that back up. So get your mother might want to do that. And she might also get her to do belly button therapy, right? Where do your parents live?
Sydney, Australia.
So you can get somebody, they can order, or they can get someone to make this, there's a little rubber tip on it. But take a look at belly button therapy. And then I don't know if it's legal there, but get them to get like a THC CBD blend. And then after she does the belly button therapy, which will release 50% of her dopamine, 70% of serotonin, which will put her into a passive state, have her put like 2 drops of frankincense in her belly button, and then 2 drops of CBD and THC, and watch her do this. It'll, because this puts her into a parasympathetic state and gets rid of the anxiety part, because she's stuck in a sympathetic state. And then the frankincense and the CBD THC mixture will actually stimulate 72,000 nerves at the speed of light. And you will look in her eyes and she'll have a sense of peace. Now, what if you had your mother do that 3 times a day, and you had her do like the Avicen 3 times a day, or even 4 times a day for half an hour? She would be in a passive state so much that it would retrain her brain. So the physical can orchestrate and the hormonal can orchestrate the brain, whereas the brain can also orchestrate the physical body as well.
All right.
Okay.
And then she can get well enough to assist my father in his health, recovery too.
Yes, if it's true that she's not, as long as she's not at the point where it's not fun anymore.
Right. No, she misses him like crazy.
Okay.
She wants him back home, and she doesn't actually want to send him back.
Well, then guess what?
To the nursing home.
Guess what? Then for coming on the show, I'll give you another gift. We can get your mother on Zoom, and we'll get you on Zoom, and we could get your brothers and sisters on Zoom, and I'll spend 45 minutes, and I'll go through all the things. Get them to watch this show, and if they want to go in, we will build the perfect day for them, won't we, Sean? And that's my gift to you. And then you do whatever you want. And listen, let me tell you, they don't have to buy any of my products. If they can find something that is as good or similar, then they can get them anywhere, and we will work with her. This is not about us. This is about your family. And this is not me trying to be a goody guy. This is the way it needs to be. This is what we have to be. You know what? When are we, let's cut the bullshit, okay? When are we actually going to love each other? When are we going to stop going to other countries and attacking people for the bankers, for the elite? Okay, don't mean to put this into this show, but when are we really going to start loving ourselves and each other and not giving some BS line like, let's all stay together, some corporate coming out and then like Walmart. What did it say? Oh, have a lovely Christmas with Walmart. Oh, you know what? Does anybody have a barf bucket for me here? Okay, are we like kidding? The same people that are trying to destroy our businesses. I want to have a lovely time with Walmart. Anyways, let's get back to where I'm at. I'm sorry, guys. I just feel for everybody out there. I'm not angry because I don't participate. I really don't. I don't participate. I went shopping, Doriella, the other day, and I don't like to go out shopping. I'm not a shopper, anyways.
Right.
Okay. I'm not like a big shopper, but the reality is, I went out the other day and we went shopping the whole day. I never put a mask on once. You walk in and you own it. You own it. Yeah. The only thing that somebody said when I was in the mall, because nobody was maskless. Okay, they're all faceless. Okay, and the only thing that was said to me was, "Oh, rebels, aren't you?" And I didn't say anything. Whatever. But the reality is, it's not about being a rebel. It's about not giving up your soul. Okay. Anyways, right. And why am I saying this to you, Doriella? Because guess what? If you connect to your breath, okay, you put a slight smile on your face and you go, we got this. It's how you enter a project. It's how you enter this. Understand, planet Earth, life-threatening, fun-filled adventure for the whole family if you know the rules. You know what? When we used to go to movies, would you like to go to a movie where nothing happens, or would you like to go to a movie where it looks like the end of the world's coming, but somebody comes and saves the day? Okay, well, let's be that person that saves the day.
I've been waiting for so long. Years of my own researching, trying to find out. What doctors keep saying, no, he's too into the later stages of dementia. We could treat him at the beginning, and so false hope, false ideas, and to come to this point where things are reversible. The body is very
let's make something really clear. Okay, can we make this really clear? And I'm not trying to cut you off, and I apologize, but I want to get this clear before I forget or you go on to other topics.
Please.
When the doctor says there's nothing they can do, they're not lying. They're saying there's none of our drugs are going to work right now on him. Well, guess what? Then don't go to a druggie. Go to nature. Go to nature's cupboard. Don't come to me.
You're right.
Go into nature. Go find his nature. Go find his nature, because that's who he is. Find his happy spot. Okay, start bringing nature back into him. You know what I said? There's lots of things you can do. There's lots of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a few things here for your homework here. First of all, get your family to go into the perfect day. Okay.
Okay.
And then in my library, you'll find the perfect day. They can start reading it, going through it, and they can look at the perfect day diet in there. It's called the 4 pillars. Or they can just go into my library and look at the 4 pillars. And they don't have to bite it all. When people look at things, then they can come to us and we'll go, okay, let's start here. Let's do this. And like I said, there's no charge, but we only charge $150 for a lifetime. So that means a person comes to us, we build a protocol, and they could come to us every few days and we'll tweak it. As they grow, as they get better, we do less things, we do more of something else. Understand, that's how it works. Getting well is not a treatment. Getting well is not searching for a cure. It's searching for a perfect day. A happy day, a healthy day. So anyways, go take a look at the perfect day, and then emotionally, see if you can get your parents to look at the 4 pillars. They're in the perfect day, wearing a love band, doing mirror work, and coming together and doing the couple's connection where they actually sit and look into each other's eyes. Oh my God, he could wake up by just doing that. So they get the man on the floor, he spreads his legs. You can go and look at this in the emotional intelligence guide, but he spreads his legs like this, and then he's facing this way, and then the wife is facing him and her legs are on top, spread out, and they come together and they hug each other like this, and they look in each other's eyes, and they don't talk, and they breathe with each other 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out, or just breathe 6 seconds in slowly and out. I don't know, depending what they can do. And that's all they do. And they look in each other's eyes. And I've had people that have had dementia and Alzheimer's, and where they will actually set them up, and they'll go, "Oh my God, I love you." You know what I mean? They just wake up. They wake up. We actually create programs to shut ourselves down because we can't take the pain no more.
Right.
Okay. So anyways, have them
Incredible.
take a look at that. It doesn't look like this anymore. It's called, okay, it doesn't look like this anymore, but it's called emotional intelligence for life. Okay. And then or if they want, you can look through the 12 loving steps. But if you look in the perfect day, it's called the 4 pillars, and it's just love band, couples connection, mirror work, and breathing. If they could just even start those 4 things. And every day, if they could do the couples connection where they look in each other's eyes, oh my gosh. Let's remember something. We're talking about, we are spirit beings having a physical trip. And the way to look into the spirit for each other is to look in each other's eyes. Okay? All right.
Wonderful.
Now, and then, no, there's enough. I don't want to say anything else for them to do. That's it.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much. Wow, you have a wealth of knowledge. Thanks for sharing that with us. And
Do you know what I have? Do you know what I have? An imagination. And you got to get your parents to work on their imagination. When you work on your, because we see everything in an image. Remember what I said at the beginning? So if your parents start to imagine things, then they're going to create new highways in their brain. You know, when they say to your dad, "Well, he's got damage, so, well, no, we're not going to maybe get the damage out, but we're going to rewire some new wiring in there." And understand something. That's called, the brain does that, okay? It is plastic. Right. It will remold itself. It will recreate itself, okay? All right.
So basically my dad needs to flush out his bowels.
Well, for one thing, when your dad no longer has a tummy, he's going to remember stuff. Let me say something. The last time that you got really drunk, you couldn't remember things, could you? Especially when you have a hangover. Your dad has got a poop hangover. How would you like a poop hangover? Your dad has a poop hangover. He's got all these bacteria farting in him. What do you think that's doing to his brain? Okay? Tell me that your dad, go to the bathroom after your dad goes to the bathroom. It's going to smell like something died in there. He's rotting inside, for God's sakes. All these intelligent people, gee whiz, why don't they, let's all these brilliant practitioners go to the bathroom with your father and see if they can figure it out. Okay? Okay.
Can I ask you something? My dad, he seems, though, he's 75 years of age, but he's still very active, and he's annoying my mum all the time, saying, "Claudia, let's go, this. He always wants to go for a car drive, and, and just all day long he can be telling her, let's go. But that's all he says,
I know, but because guess what? Did you ever, let me put it this way. I'm going to try to say this in the best way I can.
Yeah.
Were you ever upset, and then you were upset too long, and you created something, and then you wished you didn't, and you wished you could go back? So now I want to get out of this hole. Will somebody grab my hand and help me? He's not a pain in the butt. He's going, crap, I got myself into a bad situation. This is my last foothold. I need to keep doing something, or else I'm going to totally lose myself.
Right. So it's his attempt.
Oh my God, come on. You know what?
I'm going to
Yeah. You got into a fight one time. No, I don't love you anymore. Just get away from me. Get away from me. And then the person goes away, and you go, oh my God, I do love you. Please come back. Okay. So he wants to come back.
Yeah. the other day, my mum called the nursing home, and they put him on the phone to her, and all he said was, "I'm not well here. I'm not well here," and then left. And my mum was like, "Whoa." Like, that's never come out of his mouth before. Like,
Guess what?
A sentence like that.
Guess what?
Like,
Yeah, he's desperate now. And the other thing is he says, "I'm not well here." Well, the thing is that his progression is going to decline. Come on. Who loves them there?
Yeah.
There's sweet people that love them, but they go home. There's sweet people that love them, but they have a job. They got to move on. It's the next domino they got to go to, right? Okay? And guess what happens when
the body.
and if your dad gets a little bit too much energy and he acts ADD, guess what he gets? He's gonna get some drugs to calm him the hell down.
Yes, I think you just never know.
Oh, you do know. You do know. Okay, when it rains, you get wet. Okay.
It's true.
Okay.
When he's a runner, he likes to go and leave, and
sure.
We had to put a fence around the house because we had to keep calling the police. He's lost.
Okay.
And, yeah.
But what if we were to harness that energy?
Yeah.
You're going to have to harness the energy. So you better get together with your family and figure out a plan. And is it really a big deal for someone to lose 6 to 9 months for their parents? What a great gift. I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah. Beautiful.
There's somebody out there, okay? What a great gift. You know what? It's how you sell this thing. It's how you sell it to yourself. Well, I can't do that. Why can't you? Well, I just can't. Why can't you? Well, because I believe I can't. Well, that's not cool. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Wolfe.
You're welcome, sweetie.
Oh, I appreciate everything. You taking the time to speak to me and for caring for my family enough, It's really special.
Well, you know what? Just know that you've done everything that you possibly can up to this point. And understand something. Caring for your family does not mean suffering for your family. Let's make that perfectly clear, everybody. So get over it. It's like this. We're not going to jockey for who suffers the most in the family and wears themselves out, burns themselves out, makes themselves sick. So caring is different than suffering. So we need to make sure of that because people kind of mix that up. I couldn't care more for my family, but I'm not going to suffer for them. And know this. I couldn't love my family more. And understand something. I'm not going to suffer because guess what? I'm not trying to make my family into something they don't want to be. I'm going to become the example, hopefully for my family, so that if they want, they can follow this example. And I'm going to love unconditionally everybody in my family, even though some people in my family, wow, okay, just like every family, God loved them. But they say the same thing about me because you know what? It's like, who does he think he is? Well, I don't know who I am yet. I'm still working on that, everyone. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. Because you know what?
You're welcome.
You gave the gift. You gave the gift of Christmas to everyone. You gave the gift because, there's going to be so many people that are commenting right now. When you go take a look on Facebook, you're going to see they're going to be saying thank you to you. They're going to be sending you their love. People really care for each other. You know what? We just got messed up because they gave us a rule book that doesn't work, sweetheart. Okay?
Right.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you again. Appreciate everything.
Have a beautiful day. And don't forget, if you want, we'll do a Zoom with you and your family. We're here for you, and I truly mean that. God bless.
That will be wonderful. Thank you. I look forward to it. Bye-bye. God bless everybody.
Bye, everybody. Have the best day of your life. I'm sure you know how to do it. Put a smile on. Stay connected to your breath. And guess what? Focus on what you want. Be selfish enough to look after your needs. Okay? Yeah. You were given a body. Let's love it. Well, God bless.
You are the power you seek.